All right. The time is 7 p.m. on this Tuesday. And this segment of Hi, Jack John. Thanks for joining on Instagram. We are on Instagram Live and Facebook Live. And the conversation that we are having today is going to be about how do I bring my fiance or spouse to the United States in the midst of a pandemic. Hi, Erica. Thanks for joining on Instagram. And so this was a question that I have been asked about a lot. And so I wanted to come on live today and share with you guys what is going on right now. We talked about, hi, Carol, thanks for joining. We are talking about immigration today, how to bring your fiance or your spouse to the United States in the midst of a pandemic. So I have gotten a lot of questions, and I wanted today to take some time to piggyback on what I've said before. But here is the issue and why I felt that it was pertinent for me to come on live today. Here's the thing. The pandemic has thrown everyone off, right? So maybe you were here on a visa. I'm not sure what my hair is doing today, but anyways, if you were here on a visa and maybe you overstayed your visa or you didn't leave when you said you were going to leave because the border shut down before you had an opportunity to leave, then what happened is that you should have reached out to USCIS and filed for an extension. And if you were not able to file for an extension, then you should have reached out to them, letting them know this is a special circumstance and I need some sort of extension on my time to be in the United States because it is an emergency. And a pandemic is absolutely an emergency. And so USCIS is aware that this is a global pandemic. And so obviously they would be a little bit more flexible in working with you, right? So the question is, was an extension filed? And if an extension wasn't filed, then have you made any sort of attempts to communicate with USCIS so that they could know that you are here, that you're trying to stay a little bit longer? This is an emergency situation. What proactive steps did you take to let them know that, listen, I'm here. I know I'm not supposed to be here. What can I do to stay that will not have me fall into the category of overstaying my visa, right? Which could then put you in a situation where you could end up getting your visa terminated or revoked. And so obviously you don't want to do that if you're here on any sort of visa, specifically the visitor visa, right? That only allots a certain period of time for you to be in the United States. And then once that time is up, then you need to leave. So the question is, what have you done to address that issue? If you're still here and you haven't done absolutely anything to address that issue, then I can assure you that you are going to fall into the pile of folks that are in a situation where their visa is going to be terminated, which once you leave, and they will let you leave, once the time comes and you can leave the United States, they will let you leave. And when they do let you leave, coming back is where you're going to have the issue. More than likely, you will not be able to come back into the United States, and your visa will be revoked, and you will be put into what's called removal proceedings as an arriving alien. So those are the things that people need to consider if they were here and overstayed their visa for any reason during the midst of the pandemic. And as you know, not too much has changed, right? And so unless it's essential flying, unless you are falling under the category of an essential worker that is able to come and go out of the country, unless you are a US citizen, unless you are in the military or a family member of the military, then obviously under the executive order that was signed by the Trump administration, that is set to lift in a week. On June 23rd, we haven't heard any things regarding an extension of that executive order. Hi, Misha. Thanks for joining us on Instagram. But we haven't heard anything about the extension of the executive order as it relates to immigration. And so, what you have is that, as far as we know, it is set to expire. So, here's the thing, we've already gotten news today that Canada is extending their border closure, which means that they are not going to allow folks to come in and out of the United States unless you are an essential employee, worker, family member, military, something of that sort. So not too much has changed, as we know, for Canada and US border. And this is something that the Prime Minister of Canada and the Trump administration released today. And so if you are in Canada, if you were thinking of coming to the United States at the end of this month, then that is probably not an option because it has been extended till the end of July. And so that's just to let you know where we are as it relates to that. What I wanted to get into today specifically is that if you do have a fiance or if you do have a spouse, then you should be able to begin to position yourself so that you can come into the United States once those borders do open, right? And so what we are looking at and considering is that obviously many people are watching 90 Day Fiance. It is a big hit on TLC. And so if you've watched that show, then you have an idea of what that looks like. And so that is called a K-1 visa for, meeting somebody and falling in love with somebody overseas and then trying to bring them into the United States, right? And so obviously there's going to be a process to make that happen. And so what I can tell you guys is that very quickly, before we get started into kind of the legalities of it all, there is something that I do want to address because we are and we remain in the midst of a pandemic, and there are two pandemics going on. One is COVID-19 that is still very much here, and it doesn't seem that it is getting better, but possibly getting much worse as time goes on. In addition to that, we have the pandemic as it relates to racism. And so I just wanted to throw my hat behind the Black Lives Movement. I just want to make it clear that I am a Black woman, a Caribbean woman, Caribbean American living in America. I consider America to be my home. However, I want to make it clear that in looking for an attorney, you want to know that this attorney specifically stands behind Black Lives Matter and that we do not tolerate racism in any form or fashion at my firm. That extends to all of my staff that is working with me, that they understand that we are a part of the movement. We stand for the movement, and we stand with the people who are fighting, the young generation that is fighting for a change, not only in America, but all over the world, for equal rights, against police brutality, against racism, against unfairness in the workplace. We support that movement 100%. And I just wanted to say that before we got started and went any further today. So getting back to the visa as it relates to non-immigrants, I think we talked about the extension. That is very important that you request an extension. It's very important that you ask USCIS and inform them that you qualify under special situation, and then you ask them whether they will consider that you qualify for situational flexibility. So you want to contact USCIS as soon as possible to see if you fall under any of those categories, if you have overstayed your visa in the United States as of today and over the last 4 months. Now, if you are a U.S. citizen and you are trying to bring your fiance to the United States, and I want you to know that we have been successful in getting that done. There's nothing more that I like, but when clients contact our office and let us know that their fiance or their spouse has arrived and is in the United States and is living with them, there's really no feeling like it. We're so blessed when we're able to help families unite. It's such a big thing for us. And it gives me so much pride in the work that we're doing in the immigration sector. So once these folks get married and they're no longer fiance, but a couple, we also process the petition as well for them to obtain a green card. But before we do that, there are things that we need to do, right? And so we have to petition the United States to file what's considered an I-129. And that petition and that petition is what is going to get your fiance here in the United States. And so in order to be eligible, if you have been married in the past, you want to make sure that you provide your divorce decrees that show that you are no longer married to anybody else. You are free to legally marry and be engaged to someone else. Okay? So you must be legally free to marry within 90 days of your fiance entering into the United States. I want to make that clear. The U.S. citizen and fiance should have met within the 2 years previously to filing the petition. Okay. So they want to know that you guys have been dating and have been together for 2 years prior to us preparing the petition to submit. The requirement to meet fiance in person obviously would violate, the strict customs, because the issue is that we don't want any arrangements. We want to know that folks have been dating. And then the other thing that we need to know is that if that fiance does not come to the United States, it is going to cause extreme hardship on the U.S. citizen, right? So in addition to filing that additional petition for that visa, the other thing that we're going to file is an I-130, okay? And you want to file those together. And so that way that we can obtain a non-immigrant visa for the spouse to enter into the United States, even though the I-130 is still processing. So that means the I-130 hasn't been approved yet. The I-129F is what usually gets approved first, right? But we want to go ahead and get that I-130 processing because that takes a little bit of time, and we're going to need that I-130. That is what tells USCIS that you guys are related by marriage. That means that we have proved to them that there is a relationship, that you guys are married legally, that we have sent them all the documentation that they need so that we can be able to prove that, okay? There will be an interview. And so we're going to ask you that even in the petition that we're submitting, that all of the questions, please answer them fully and honestly. If you're not certain, so a lot of times, maybe you have never had any criminal issues. Hi, Tia Henry. Thanks for joining on Instagram. Even though you haven't had any legal issues other than a speeding ticket, you still want to be honest to USCIS and let them know that, yes, I got a speeding ticket and this was the result of the speeding ticket. You want to be completely honest with them. You want to provide supporting documentation. So you want to submit text messages, email communications, pictures when you guys have traveled to see each other, trips that you have taken, pictures with family members. Also, you're going to want to submit the payment that goes along with the application, and then you're going to want to file it. Now, once USCIS receives the I-129, they are going to begin to process the information, right? The application. So what is going to happen is that they're going to send you a receipt. They're going to confirm that, listen, we have received the petition. The next thing you will receive from them, you're going to get a notice of biometrics appointment. And this is needed. You definitely have to go to the biometrics appointment. When it is sent to you, you have to follow their instructions precisely. Then there would be an interview appointment date that may be scheduled. Sometimes it's not, right? Hey, Scott _Pilgrim. I haven't seen you in a while. Thanks for joining us. So what you'll want to do is make sure that a written notice of a decision is received. So you want to make sure that your address is correct. We're talking about immigration today, how to get your spouse or fiance to the United States in the midst of a pandemic. So NVC notifies both you and your relative of an invitation to apply for a non-immigrant visa. The invitation extends to qualifying dependents. That means if you have children, or if your fiance or your spouse has children, you want to come with those folks, you can. That invitation is for you and the qualifying dependents. And qualifying dependents are usually going to be children and stepchildren as well. When the time comes for the relative to immigrate, the petitioner must agree to be his financial sponsor. And that is very, very important. You are going to have to show that you can care not only for your household, but for the people who are coming into your household. And so they're going to want tax returns to show that this is how much you make. And so you usually have to be above the poverty line. If you do not meet that qualification, when you do the affidavit of support, then you may have to get some sort of assistance from family or relatives. But it's very important that you make a commitment that you are going to support these family members. And when you support these family members or these folks that are coming, you have to understand that they cannot be on any sort of government assistance whatsoever. That is very, very important. Okay. Now, that is for the fiance visa. So it's a little different than if you are bringing your spouse to the United States. That means that you guys have already gotten married. And congratulations to you if you have. And so now it's a little different. It actually gives you a little bit better options in the sense that we can begin not only to do the I-130 petition for alien relative, not only the I-29F petition for alien fiance, but we also can file the I-485 application to register permanent residence or adjustment of status. So that's excellent, right? So not only are we getting you over here and you're starting your new life, but you're also going to be getting that green card, which means that with that green card comes a work permit. It comes with travel documents. So a lot more rights than you have as coming over as a fiance, because if you come over as a fiance, you cannot work, right? So you're solely dependent on the income of the petitioner that's filing for you. But as a spouse, things are a little bit different and they move a little bit quicker for you in a sense that you can become financially independent within a very short period of time. And so that's excellent. It's very similar in the sense that you have to obtain the visa to come to the United States while you wait for USCIS to make a decision on the I-130. So the I-130 is still going to be pending, just to be clear, it's still going to be pending. However, the ball is already working. It's already swirling for you. So if you are a US citizen, your foreign spouse may be eligible for the K3 visa. And that's if they are married to you. That is, if they are a beneficiary of the I-130, the petition for alien relative that we talked about, that you filed for him or her, and they seek to enter into the United States to wait for a decision on the I-130. Now, if they are coming with a child, which happens very often, you may have met someone that does have a child and you want the child to come. I'm sure they want their children to come. Then the child may be eligible for a K4 visa. And it seems that my co-counsel with 4 legs is on something today. And so she's going to be a part of this session all the way through. So I apologize for that. Anywho, the child may be eligible for a K3 visa. In order to be eligible, however, they have to be not a K3, a K4 visa, but they must be under the age of 21. They must be unmarried. The child of the K3 applicant you filed. So the person that is now your spouse, this is their child, right? Now you must be approved for the I-130 to be eligible for the green card, right? And so once we get that I-130 approved, boom, we're going to submit that 485 petition to USCIS and get the ball rolling, okay? Now, once USCIS approves the I-485, you will receive a green card, right? So now it gets a little interesting because once we have gone through all of these steps to get the person here legally, Then we will also be bringing them, I'm sorry, my dog is kind of throwing me off a little bit. So once we get through all of these steps, now you guys are married. What people usually come to see me for, if you can believe it, they come to see me for a divorce. And it hasn't even been 2 years yet, right? And so when that happens, guess what? Now we have to talk about this green card that you got, because it's a conditional green card. It is not a full-blown 10-year green card. So that means that we then have to look at, will you be able to move forward with the I-751 petition, or will there have to be a waiver filed on your behalf? And if there is a waiver that has to be filed, then we have to go through an additional step again. And so I'm not saying that this always happens. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that it is possible for it to happen, right? And so if that happens, then that's why you want to speak to an attorney that practices not only immigration, but also practices family law, and that's where we come in. And so I hope that this information was useful to you. I am going to be cutting the session short today because it looks like there's some things going on outside, but I hope that this information was valuable. And if you have any questions and you want to schedule a consultation with the firm, please be sure to do so on our website. And then also give us a call at 678-601-5580. So tune in next week for our next subject. And thank you guys so much for all of you that have joined. I'm sorry, Herbert, Bert, if you would call the office if you are trying to retain the firm at 678-601-5580. That's how it works. Okay? Talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.